What's up, junk removal business owners? It's Blake from Top Dog Digital Solutions. In today's video, I want to go into our junk removal business growth challenge, the second part of the series for the winter and the fall season for you guys. Today, I want to focus on commercial business because for a lot of you in the next couple months, you will have a little bit more time on your hands than you did during the spring and the summer. So this is the perfect time to start trying to make some personal introductions and to do some things to get in front of property managers, realtors, storage unit companies, and anything else that falls in between when it comes to starting to build commercial business and relationships. So most of you have probably not put together the resources when it comes to getting in touch with these types of people. Whether it's, you could do it in cold email, you could do it through mailers and postcards, just a couple of different ways you could go about that. And usually those options are very low cost. So that's one thing that I would look into. I have put together resources for scripts and things alike when it comes to emailing these types of people. So if you need any of those resources, please don't hesitate to drop a comment. I can send you our PDF that we put together. I'm also in the process of building a community that's literally going to have all those scripts and everything in one place. I'll tell you guys more about that in another video. But if you need that, don't hesitate to leave a comment and I'll send that your way. But you want to put together a resource to kind of get in front of them, not with the expectation that immediately you're going to build a relationship, but to start building towards that, right? Some, they'll see an email, if they have a need right then and there, it will work. You know, we send a lot of emails and we've had a lot of, property managers or realtors or whatever the case may be come back and say, yeah, I actually have this scenario here. Do you guys handle that? But not all are going to do that, right? So I just want to set the right expectations. But for you guys right now, coming in as we start to near the winter season, still somewhat busy during the fall for most of you, but it's going to start to slow down. So when you have that time on your hands, I want you to use it wisely. And one of the ways that you could start to utilize it is by making personal introductions to some of these places, whether it's making your rounds to, a couple of properties around your way, whether it's storage unit companies, doesn't matter, whatever your ideal client is. And most of those should fit that criteria if you're a junk removal business owner. And one of the main things I wanted to bring up about this is that I think a lot of times when we come in, we're sort of so focused on selling ourselves that we're not necessarily coming in with a solution to the problem or finding out if they even have a problem, right? So what I mean by that is when you come into these places, one of the first things that I want to do is I want to kind of go around the area and see if there's a current problem. Is there illegal dumping happening in one of the dumpsters? Is there something that I know they have a need for me for, right? Because that's something that I can present to them right away when I make that introduction. Then, of course, when I'm having that conversation with the best point of contact and the decision maker, I want to start asking them about whether they have a problem with whether it's bulk trash, whether it's clean outs, whatever the case may be. Instead of just coming in and saying, hey, I'm Blake from such and such junk removal, and we're a full service junk removal company. We do this, this, and this. Here's my business card. That can work to a degree, but you're probably going to have a higher likelihood of building a relationship and maybe even helping them on a shorter term by finding out if they have a problem and then coming in with your solution, right? So it's a completely different conversation if I start with, hey, I noticed this. Do you guys typically deal with that? Is that a problem that you guys have often? Okay, what do you normally do when this happens? So when I'm asking those kind of questions to the decision maker, I'm finding out, do they have the problem? Is it a common problem? Do they have a junk removal provider? If so, then I want to dive deep into that. Is your provider usually, on time? Do they show up when they say they're going to show up? Are you guys happy with them? I want to find out all those things because every single one of those things helps me become a better resource for them. So you need to find those things out before you go full on selling yourself. The other part of this is when you come in, you could bring different things with you. Some guys, they do cupcakes. I've heard cookies, cheesecake, pizza, you name it. Whether it's something for lunch, whether it's, a sweet, chocolates, whatever it is, you may want to, bring that with you. I think that's a nice touch. It's not a necessity, but it's a nice touch. Helps them remember you. But at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to you finding out if they have a problem that revolves around junk removal, and then helping them understand that you're the best solution for the problem. And you'll find through those questions and through that conversation that either it's not a common problem for them, so in that case, not going to be the ideal clientele for you. You'll find out whether they have a provider and whether they're happy with them or not. If they're happy with them, I wouldn't go pushing my services. I wouldn't talk bad about the other company. I would simply say, hey, glad they're taking care of you. If you ever have any issues in the future, or if for whatever reason you have something come up and they can't take care of it in a timely fashion for you, please keep our information handy. We'd love to help you. I would wrap it with something like that in case that relationship ever sours or something happens where they can't get to a job at a certain time period that they would like. But if you do find that they have a provider, but maybe they're not happy with them, or, actually sometimes we call them and they can't get here for a few days and we normally need it done next day. That's your in. That's where you come in and you say, well, it's funny you mentioned that because we have another property manager who we're working with who has kind of dealt with the same thing when it comes to junk removal providers. And we're actually able to get a truck on site same day or next day. Obviously only say that if that applies to you, but for most of you it does, especially if you're starting to really get slow. So you want to make that known. You want to give them the benefits of working with you, your service. You want to highlight any companies that you've worked with in the area that are doing the same things. So if you're talking to a storage unit company and you've worked with another storage unit company in the area, mention that. If it's a property manager and you've worked with another property manager in the area, mention that. Realtor, so on and so forth. Okay. But the main thing that I wanted to get across in this video is that when you're selling this service or you're selling yourself, just try and do it in a way where you're figuring out their problems first, or if they even have one, and then kind of meeting in the middle with your solution and your service. Because if you only come in selling yourself, odds are they're not going to recognize the problem that you're needed for, and you're just not going to be able to make that connection and be their go-to resource when it comes down to it. Mentioning one of the conversations I had with someone the other day, we mentioned our terminology is junk removal, right? Full service junk removal. Well, on their side, that might not be their terminology. For a property manager, it's actually quite difficult for them to, clean out items for a tenant and label it junk because most of those items are technically not junk, So they may not use that same terminology. So you have to be careful there as well. In that if you say you're just selling yourself and you're a full service junk removal company, they might not really understand what that is. All right. So instead, you almost want to find out, do they have an issue with, getting items removed when a tenant is gone? Do they have items, issues with removing items by the dumpster and people illegally dumping pretty consistently? And then talk about your solution from there. But I would 100%, if you have the time on your hands and you start to get slow, start to put some resources together to build those relationships, because they're going to help carry you forward through the winter and obviously into next year when you start picking up, because you'll have those relationships and you'll have something that you could fall back on that has a little bit more consistency. And I would aim for anything from realtors, property managers, storage unit companies, hotels can be good sometimes. And if you're focused on demolition or you have dumpster rentals, contractors, general contractors could be a good one as well. But get yourself out there, make yourself known, figure out their pain points, give them the solution, and hopefully you can build some relationships that'll help carry you forward through the winter and into next year. If you guys have any questions on the script that I mentioned that we use for realtors and property managers, or anything that, revolves around meeting with them in person and kind of sort of building a comfort level around that, feel free to drop it in the comments. And as always, I appreciate you guys for watching. Thanks.